Guru Nation, welcome to episode 117 of Random Musings from the Clinical Trials Guru, without the annoying ticking sounds that you may have heard in episode 116. I do apologize. Metronome is not a good thing when using GarageBand, and once it's done and you export it, there's no way to go back and take that out of there. So I learned the hard way. I had some audio people that I hired on staff through my digital marketing company, Wagner, and he can't do it. He said there's no way you can do this unless you go through each quarter of a second and delete the track, which is just a complete pain. So I'm not going to do it, but I published it with the ticking sounds. So enjoy. Episode 117 is free of ticking sounds, okay? And this one is for the research clinics. So the last episode was really for people that want to get into the industry, perhaps. This one is for the research clinics. I keep repeating myself. 2018 is going to be the busiest year on record. The problem with 2018, with that come a lot of challenges, and I'm going to talk about some of the challenges of being in a good market as a research site owner. Definitely still a lot better than being in a bad market, but that doesn't mean it's without its challenges. So the first challenge is going to be staff retention. Okay, so in good markets, staff tend to get overworked. And in many organizations, staff members who do a good job tend to get rewarded with more work. It's very easy to fall victim to this trap when you are an employer. I've done this in the past. It's something we all as site directors and business owners really have to work at, because for us as entrepreneurs, we're trying to maximize profits and minimize expenses. And that means if a human asset, an employee, is doing a good job, you want to continue that, right? You want to maximize that. But the problem is, these are human resources, right? So they're not robots. We're not there yet. We don't hire robots to be our coordinators. And we're probably like maybe 30 years away from that at least. Okay. So I'll be like 65, 66 years old at least. So you got to work with human beings, and this involves communication. This involves setting expectations. This involves creating incentives. This involves creating proper reward structures, because staff are going to get overworked in a good market, okay? And that's better than being underworked, but guess what? It's not good if you lose your best employees to a competitor, and now you got to start all over again, or you can't take advantage of this good market because now you need to find somebody else to train, and then you got to train them, or you yourself have to step in and fill in the shoes of a coordinator, and now business development might be lacking, or whatever else the case may be. If that's the case, hire us for the business development. We do that. $1,000 a month is what we charge. We do a lot of other stuff too, but that's definitely one of the challenges, is going to be employee retention. I've been through the last good market in clinical research. It's almost like real estate, like 7-year cycles. And that was the challenge then. I couldn't find enough good staff. Had no problems getting studies. This year, that seems to be the same thing. We have no problems getting good studies. It's going to be a challenge finding the right employees. I mean, we're almost willing to take on, and I say almost because where I'm sitting right now, we're still in a startup. This is a small clinic, global clinical trials. We're almost willing to lose money on hiring a new staff member just so that they're trained by the time the majority of our studies get started in March, early April. But we're not there yet. So we're getting by with one coordinator and a couple of assistants here and there. And a couple of our assistants, the market's so good, a couple of our assistants got hired by competitors, and I actually helped them get hired. But I didn't want that to happen, but I'm not the type of person to keep somebody back just for my own benefits. I help them get these full-time positions, and I told them, if April comes around and you're not happy there, come on back. We'll happily take you. But I truly do want what's best for them in the long run, because I do think it's going to come back to reward me in the future somehow. And if it doesn't, that's fine. But the point is, you may want to consider overhiring in this market and look at your margins. So obviously, if you're running at high profit margins, if you're running at 80% profit margins, which this clinic here is, a lot of the smaller clinics run at 80% profit margins, you may want to run at 70% and hire an extra staff member, okay, and make sure they're cross-trained on all the studies, because you never know. People can get poached. People can just want to quit. I don't care how good your company culture is. Anything can happen in this kind of market. Opportunities present themselves. You may not be prepared to match those opportunities. Burnout can happen. And a number of things can go on in this kind of a market environment, and you want to be prepared. So definitely pay attention to overworked employees. Our webinar in February this month is going to be on this topic of how to assess study coordinator workload and how to surround them with help, how to get them the help they need. It seems like the coordinators are the backbone of every study. They do 90% or more of the work. And if you lose a good one, you're losing. That's an opportunity cost. You're not just losing a coordinator. That costs you opportunities as far as revenues that you're not going to be able to generate until you find somebody else to replace them, which is going to take at least 3 months. And then you don't even know if they're going to be good, right? Or you can step in and you're not going to be as good as your best coordinator. Right now, if Monica left and I had to step in, and I'm way more experienced than Monica, but if I had to step in and fill her shoes right now, productivity here would take a dip. And there's just, she's in the trenches. She's in a rhythm. She knows the study. She has a rapport with the monitors. She has a rapport with the patients. She knows where all the documents are filed. She knows all the nuances of every study, where we stand on deviations or on AEs. There's no way I could pick up, and I could probably get up to speed in 3 months. But that's 3 months of potential problems and sponsors getting upset. And so you don't want that. So pay attention to workload this year. Pay attention to recruitment. Patient recruitment. I did a video yesterday. Get to learn how to use Google Ads. I got Google AdWords certified this month. That is helpful for my digital marketing agency. I've watched hours and hours of Facebook ad tutorials, and the algorithm's always changing, and you could pick up new strategies. And if you're able to save 50 cents to $1 per click, you're maximizing your chances of being successful on these campaigns. Those clicks add up. I got 1,500 impressions on my last Google campaign for one day and got 10 clicks. Okay, and I'm paying $1.40 a click, and sometimes those could be $9 a click if you don't know what you're doing. So pay attention to those things. Get highly targeted. Tip I want to give you guys and gals, if you're listening on Facebook, there is a way to create a custom audience. If you have any kind of email list, upload that into Facebook to create a custom audience. Just emails, okay? Just email addresses. Facebook has so much data. We can't comprehend it, but there's so much data that Facebook has. They know who these people are based on their emails, and then they know which people are similar to those people. So if you have a list, you can target. And I'm not sure how that works with HIPAA. Okay, I have not used it for patient recruitment yet. Check with your attorneys. But it is something I would try, okay, because it's just email addresses. It's not names. So check with attorney just to be safe. I got to put that disclaimer out there. I've used that for my CRA Academy, and it works well. So get good at recruitment. Okay, Google ads, Facebook ads. If you have the capabilities and the willingness to set up a support group within your research clinic, one night a week in the evenings. Like a couple years ago, we ran a mental illness support group once a week at our clinic. We would have pizza, donuts. We would talk about coping strategies with various mental illnesses. We did this for about a year, and we would actually have 10 or 12 regular people. And those people, not all of them joined studies. Okay, support groups are not necessarily the best recruitment strategy, but it's a good way to brand yourself. Those people ended up referring some people who did do the studies. So look for creative ways to get your recruitment numbers up. Synergy is a big one. If you know, this is why networking is so important. And we always talk about networking at conferences. So network at conferences with other research site owners that are not necessarily in your geographic area, and figure out a way for you guys to share study leads, because you're not really in the same marketplace. Now, you can also use the same strategy to network with physicians in your local area and figure out what you can barter. Okay, perfect example. We have one of our clients. He's getting started in research. We have another client who already has an established research clinic. I put them in touch. One needs studies, one needs patients, and they exchange, right? One sends the study leads, the other sends patients every now and then. So figure out what works. You need to talk to more people. You need to network. You need to go out in the community. The number one way to attract more patients to your research clinic is to get physicians involved. Get them as Subeyes. Get nurse practitioners involved as Subeyes. That brings up another good topic. Communication becomes a problem, and setting your priorities becomes a problem. Those two things, communication and priorities, become problematic in good markets like we're in right now. So let's go with communication first. The problem with good markets is everyone's busy. And because of that, everyone makes assumptions because it's faster to do that than to communicate. I've never been a fan of team meetings, but if communication's an issue at your clinic, you should have, and if you have large organizations, you should try to get everybody together, even for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Or if that's not possible, you, the site director, needs to talk to every single stakeholder, coordinator, assistants, PI, nurse practitioners, sub-I, referring physicians. You need to make at least one touch point, if not more. I mean, with your coordinator, you should make daily touch points. But with your network, with your extended network, the further you get out from the core is really the people you see every day. Your PI, your coordinators, maybe your patient recruiter, the people you talk to every single day. You know who they are. Whether you're in a small clinic or a big clinic, you have a core group of people. You talk to them every day. That's fine. The problem, and communication with them, even with that core group in a busy market like this, still becomes a problem. But I'm not necessarily worried about those people because you at least have multiple touch points with them throughout the day. The further you get out, let's talk about the Subeyes now. The nurse practitioners, the other MDs that are Subeyes that you don't necessarily see every day. You may have them on the 1572. They may be on the delegation log in case the PI is sick, or they may be there just to help with recruitment, or they may be there to help with recruitment and with certain assessments. You don't talk to them every day, All right, let's just be real. You do not see these people every day. Somebody from your clinic needs to make a weekly touch point with them. If communication is really an issue and there's a lot of potential recruitment involved, and you know that these Subeyes have the patience, they're just lacking time because they're busy running their own private practices, you as the site director need to go out and talk to them. Okay, every day if you need to. Once a week is minimum. We're going to have to start doing that here at Global Clinical Trials, and I'll tell you the truth, it's my fault. Okay, I can't put that on our coordinator. She's got her hands full. I've got my hands full with a whole bunch of, like, dozens of other businesses I'm running, but I'm noticing that we're not communicating well with our secondary network of staff members. They're still part of Global Clinical Trials, and they're there to help refer patients, and they're there to do certain assessments. They're willing to do all that. But in the day-to-day reality of things, they're not here. And so out of sight, out of mind. It's my job. They're in the building. They're in the building at least once a week. And it's my job as the site director, and your job as the site director or the site owner, or if you're all three of those, if you're the site director, site owner, and coordinator, you've got another responsibility, and that's making touch points with these sub-investigators, especially if you need patients. You know why? Because if you're not, and these are people that get out in the community, your competitors will. And that actually happened in our own building, right? Competitors came in. They didn't know we're here. They came in, they know the nurse practitioner or the other doctor, and they start talking to them about research. And that is my fault. And if that happens to you, that's your fault. You've got nobody else to blame. Communication becomes key. So now what I'm going to do, every week, I'm here about 4 days every week at this clinic. I'm going to meet with, ideally, multiple people at the same time. We have 5 Subeyes, most of them nurse practitioners here. I'm going to meet with all of them on a weekly basis, and I'm going to try to meet with as many as I can at one time so I can bring them up to speed on where we stand with our studies, what we need from them, what Monica's schedule is looking like, which patients are coming in, when our monitor's coming in, when we're going to sync up our calendars. Okay, our group here, Global Clinical Trials, which is connected to a huge private practice of psychiatric professionals. I don't even know all of their names. And again, that's my fault. have to start to get to know them really well because we're going to need patients from them. It's called Progeny Psychiatric Group. And we're in the same building, right? And they see patients constantly, so the patients are there. It's just communication is the key. There is somebody that's his name is Jeff. He works downstairs for Progeny, and he's their community outreach person. So myself and Monica have been working with him on recruitment, and what he does, he does many things, but one of the things he does, which you guys might want to implement, is he sets up a monthly internal newsletter that goes out to all the Progeny staff, and he's been really good about it. He always asks us, "Hey, do you want me to put anything about your studies in here?" And so, of course, we do. So that's something you might want to consider also, especially for those larger groups out there, because I know there's a lot of groups out there. Like, we have a small research clinic, but we're attached to a large medical group, and communication breakdowns happen all the time, and it stems from the top. You can't put that on your coordinator. Monica used to be community outreach, so that was her job. Now she's a full-time coordinator, and that part, the community outreach part, has been missing, and it's my fault until I bring somebody else in to do that effectively, and I train them on how to do it. So I can't get mad at other clinics coming in here and talking to my nurse practitioners because they're just doing their jobs. So don't let that happen to you. Communication becomes a priority in a busy year because everybody's busy. and that's the first thing that tends to break down. So if they don't think it's important, and if they don't hear from you, that means it's not important and they're focused on something else. Another thing that becomes a priority is setting your priorities in order. So I wish one of my business partners was here. He's this old business guy, owns hospitals. If you follow me on Snapchat or Instagram, you've probably seen my stories with him occasionally. He has like this quadrant, and I'll butcher it, but he lists things that are urgent and important in one quadrant, urgent, not important in another quadrant, urgent, non-important, non-urgent but important, and non-urgent and non-important. So something like that. There's like a quadrant. You've got to obviously figure out what's urgent and important, and then you got to figure out what's maybe urgent and non-important. Okay, because they're two different things. Perfect example of urgent and important. And again, you as the owner decide what those mean, right? Obviously, patient safety is urgent and important. But when it comes to running your business, right, you may have a site selection visit that you need to get done. You may have to submit a proposal for an advertising strategy to a sponsor. You might have to go do some community outreach, and you might have to bring in a new coordinator. You got to figure out which of those are urgent and important, and then do that first, and then do the urgent, not important thing next, or do the non-urgent but important thing next. You got to figure that out yourself, all right? But have some kind of system where you're prioritizing what needs to get done. Because if you're just going by a checklist and you're mixing up urgent, important, non-urgent, non-important, you're just going to go through your checklist and do things, and you may not have time to finish all of them. And what if one of them was urgent and important? Is that going to wait till the next day? So you should have priorities set up. These are problems in any year, but they're compounded in a busy year, a busy market. So those are some of the things to keep in mind. Other than that, I mean, this is going to be a great year. I would take these kind of years over slow years anytime. Okay, sign me up for this. I'll take these kind of problems. But just some things to consider. Okay, so thank you very much, Guru Nation, and we'll catch you all later. Bye-bye.